Good afternoon, everyone. It's Dr. Qureshi here, your host of I Choose Us on a Tuesday night at 7 p.m. with my lovely co-host, Deanna. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
It's that time of the year where it's getting really, really busy
Mhm.
because, there's college transitions that are happening. And then me and Dr. Tanya have another live event on Thursday, which is going to focus specifically on back to school,
Oh, that's so
and
good.
what that looks like. So it's like I
Mhm.
think this entire month, I think this is my third live event too. So along with juggling this and juggling my day-to-day responsibilities, it's definitely a stretch right now. But with that, how have you been? We did not have the opportunity to host I Choose Us last month. So what have you been up to?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I've been so busy. I remember when I was a kid, I used to think that all adults talked about was the weather and how fast time goes. And now I'm an adult and I feel like all I talk about is the weather and how fast time goes. And part of the time going by fast is that I just feel like I'm really busy. I was telling you a few minutes ago, I'm feeling like I'm teetering on that edge of being a little bit burnt out. And
Mhm.
like I need to find a way to fit in a little bit more space for myself for some resting and just kind of grounding. I want to read a book. I just want to read a book for fun. That's kind of my short-term goal right now. Is just to find a good book to read.
Yeah, and you know what? In speaking of books, there's been some awesome books that I recently recommended, and Dr. Tanya has her Raising the Well-Adjusted Child. I
Yeah.
know we've been talking a lot about that in our Parenting in the Trenches series.
Mhm.
And then Nick also published their recent book, More Than Our Diagnosis. We choose to be more than our
Mhm.
diagnosis. So that's a
Mhm.
really good read as well. So definitely check it out. I don't know if you're looking for something funny, something fiction, nonfiction.
I think I
I
want
don't know
something
what type of
funny.
genre you.
I want something funny
Yeah.
and like just fun, just easy and light and fun. Something I don't have to think hard at. Like I think my mind needs a little bit of a rest. And if I could find something that made me laugh out loud, I would be thrilled.
Yeah.
So I'm here for
Yeah,
any
I don't know.
recommendations. Mhm.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't know. I mean, all I can think of is with the books that I grew up with, like Goosebumps, and uh,
I remember reading
I
those.
don't know if they were funny.
I don't remember that they were funny, but I remember reading Babysitter Club and the Boxcar Children and really liking those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
books, definitely books. All
Yeah.
right, well, let's get on to our
Yes.
topic, right? So,
Mhm.
we've been doing this I Choose Us series for this year, started in January of 2025 as an extension of I Choose Me from
Mhm.
last year, right? And we've covered a lot of different topics. And I think, the purpose behind I Choose Us obviously is about relationships, right? How do we navigate relationships? What is
Mhm.
important to know about navigating relationships? Like, what does relational trauma look like in our day to day lives, right?
Mhm.
Um, and the reality is, as my mom would say, we come into this world alone, we leave alone, but we can't live alone, right? No matter how much we try to get away, right, we're drawn back into relationships, and sometimes it is those toxic ones, right, or the ones
Mhm.
that are detrimental to your well-being. And
Mhm.
sadly, I think a lot of it has to do with family of origin trauma too, intergenerational trauma too, right?
Yeah.
So it's like relationships that are supposed to be so dear to us
Mhm.
are the ones that we find ourselves hurting in.
Mhm.
When you look at attachment theory, we know our relationship with our primary caregiver impacts how we show up in adult relationships, right? So, like, it
Mhm.
all starts from the family,
Yes,
which
it
is
does.
why I became a family therapist, right? But
Mhm.
that's a whole different story about my own journey. So this brings us to the topic that we're going to cover today, which is resiliency. Okay. What is resiliency? What does resiliency mean? How do we become resilient, or are we naturally resilient? Right? These are all questions that I'm sure we all think about too, right? And then also, how resilient are we? What's the opposite of resilience? Right? So these are all the things that I know. As I was thinking about the topic today, I was like, man, I don't think I was even aware of the word resilient until I started my graduate studies. And, I learned about it and I realized that I was really resilient. I was actually doing pretty good on my resiliency scale. So yeah, I'm very, very excited about today's topic. Deanna, what are your thoughts about what I just said? Do you get as excited as I get?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, resiliency, I kind of think like as a therapist, isn't that so much of what we're doing is helping people find resilience and like tap into what resilience is for them. I mean, I think that I think the topic is a great topic, and it's something that people want to be is resilient. I think we associate that with something that's good to work towards. When I think of resilience, in my mind, I always get some sort of image about things in my mind. That's how it works. I think of two things. One is a trampoline, like just kind of how trampolines, you jump on them and they move down, but then they pop right back up. Or like a rubber band where you stretch it out, but then it goes back into its original form. And I think those are two things that come to my mind. They're not perfect analogies, but that's what I think of when I think of resilience.
Resilience? Yeah, I think those are really good analogies. And I think if we were to kind of break down the word resilience in itself, I think about your ability to bounce back. Right? Your ability to navigate change, your ability to manage the stressors and hardships of life and overcome those hardships as you continue your journey in life. Right? It's almost as if, like, let's say you jump high and you come down, and I guess I'm thinking about gymnastics, right?
Yeah.
I know actually that would be a bad example, because if I had to do any flips, I will not be landing on my two toes. So I'm not resilient in that area, but that's what I'm like literally thinking about gymnastics and flipping up and down and landing on your 2 feet and like, right? So like resilience is about bounce back. It's about it's how you adapt to change. Yet with that, there's so many different layers of resilience too. There's so many different, I would say, categories of resilience that we don't think about. When we think about resilience, I think the standard definition is it's how you deal with hardship. And if you're standing there and you're still alive and you're living, you're resilient. Right? People don't actually unpack it and look at it in different layers. So I think what we want to cover today is the different types of resilience, because we've covered holistic wellness, right? That topic, we talked about different dimensions of wellness. So with resilience, there is also different categories of resilience. Okay.
Yes.
So we'll break down each one of those. And Deanna, maybe you can start with the first one. Give us a brief definition, and then let's start talking about resilience in the many different forms that it comes in.
Yeah, the first topic that I'm going to cover today is physical resilience. I like this topic. I like thinking about the physical aspects of our body, because the physical plays into the mental and the emotional as well in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of things with physical resilience that I think are really important in terms of empowerment.
Mhm.
It's so important to move our bodies. I love to move mine. I think it's important. Sometimes I have a standing desk sometimes just because I need to stand as well as sit. I need to be able to move my body in different ways and to push the limits of what I can do in terms of physicality. Um, and there's a lot of nuance to this topic. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not a physician nor am I a kinesiology expert. But when I think about resilience in terms of physical resilience, one of the ways that physical and moving my body and challenging myself physically has helped me even on the mental health side is it has enforced to me that I can do hard things. My
Mhm.
confidence in being able to do hard things has come through pushing myself physically. I used to climb stairs in a friend's apartment building. It was an over 30-story apartment building in Minneapolis. I had a friend that used to live there, and that
Mhm.
was so hard for me. It was not easy, and I did not always love it. But what it
Mhm.
did is it reinforced that I can do something really hard. And then there were dividends that paid off in that in other facets of my life as well. And so
Mhm.
that's something that I think is important about thinking about physical resilience. I think when we also think about physical resilience, another thing that we have to do is accept a certain level of powerlessness. There are things that happen to our bodies. There are things that happen in life that we don't get a say in that impact how we bounce back, that impact how we feel and how we move. And that's a hard thing, I think, for any of us to accept or to think about. But that's another thing that comes to mind with physical resilience is especially when there's something that's happened that gives us a limitation, then we have to not only kind of we have this powerlessness, but also sometimes have to embrace what we can do and what's within the limits or the capability of our physical ability, which is different than someone else's.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very important to note right there, right? Because I mean, naturally, we're all born different,
Mhm.
right? Physically, strength-wise,
Yes.
the whole nine yard, right?
Mhm.
And then depending on your life trajectory, what your experiences are, we develop different types of physical resilience as well. So
Mhm.
someone who's a wrestler or someone who does gymnastics or plays basketball, their level of physical resilience to me would look very different than my level of physical
Yes.
resilience, right?
Mhm.
Because they're just doing a lot of different things that I'm not doing, right?
Mhm.
So there's the training aspect of physical resilience too.
Mhm.
And then the other piece that you just noted is physical resilience is also about body recovery. How does your body heal physically from injuries? Right? That's where the physical therapy comes in. That's
Mhm.
where people, as they get older, they may get knee surgeries or hip replacement surgery, right? So we are looking at physical resilience in so many different layers, depending on who the individual is. Yet, what's so important to note here is that the more you pour into your body naturally, the more physical resilience you'll have, right? So this is where
Mhm.
exercise comes in, right? This is where what you eat comes in physically,
Mhm.
right? If you're meditating and stretching, I mean, all these layers of different things physically, right? If you're
Mhm.
getting the right nutrients as well. So physical resilience, obviously, when you tie it back into the dimensions, right? Like if your physical activity, if you're well taking care of your body and nourishing it, you're gonna be able to run through that storm a lot more easily
Yes.
than if you weren't taking care of yourself.
Yes.
Mhm. So, with that, physical resilience is very important. So we can move on to the next category. which is actually, this is the category that I think we automatically think about. Okay, when we think about resilience, this is the first thing everybody thinks about. And it's our mind, guys. It's our psychological well being. So, what does that mean? In the simplest terms, how strong are we mentally, right? But also, are we mentally able to adapt to things that come our way? Okay. Mental resilience is about mind adaptability. And what does that look like? That looks like, let's say a crisis happens, or you walk into work and all of a sudden you're thrown a task that you did not think what was going to happen. And bam, you have to think on your feet. Your mind has to go from, oh, I'm going to walk into the office. I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I'm going to chit chat a little bit. And you walk right in, and there is a patient in the lobby who is having a crisis, let's just say. Right? And they throw you right in there. They're like, Dr. Q, I need you to help de-escalate, right? So it's your ability to shift from one gear to the next and do it in a way where it's smooth, but also, healthier, right? It's the way that you make changes in your mind, and which is followed by your behaviors as well. So I think that's one piece of it. Deanna, do you want to add more to mental and psychological?
Oh, I think like mental and psychological, I think what goes hand in hand with that is like trusting yourself. I think of that a lot, is like, do you have the confidence or the trust in yourself to believe that you can handle also what comes and is thrown your way? Because there's stuff, you're right. Sometimes you walk into the office right away and there's something that hits you that it's like, oh man, it totally derails the plan that you had for the morning or the plan that you had for the entire day. And that is where, like, I think of the rubber band as well. Like, we have to be able to be flexible and we have to be able to roll with the punches. That's part of resiliency, especially mental resiliency. Because otherwise, I think what can happen is if we're not sometimes able, or we don't have that trust or that confidence that we can roll with this as it plays out, is that's where I see people, certainly in the therapy space, get really hard on themselves. That's where the really tough internal dialogues and internal narratives seem to come into play. And I noticed that a lot. I'm curious if you ever noticed that in your work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I want to add to, I think this is where you're going as well, is the way that your mind thinks too, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the work that we do around cognitive distortions, right? Like your mind taking in all those negative messages, right? And believing in them. So mental resiliency is also a way to push back a negative message that may creep up on you. Right? You're protecting yourself. So for example, like, let's say you and your friends, you hang out all the time, and one time you didn't get invited or something happened, etc. And something fell through the cracks, right? So instead of just going all over the place around, oh my God, they don't like me anymore, they didn't want me there, you stop yourself. You're like, okay, miscommunication happens all the time, right? Let me see what's going on. So like, I think mental resilience also has to do with the fact that you are not letting these negative messages take over your mind. You're able to target them with self-confidence. You're able to divert them somewhere else. It's almost as if like you're not letting the arrow hit you as it's targeted at you.
Yeah. And it comes with knowing who you are. I think a lot of times those folks who are able to have a good internal dialogue, I think, are the people that sometimes I admire the most, because they really know themselves well. Yeah,
absolutely. So So in some, mental psychological resilience has to do with just your mental capacity to
Mhm.
deal with your thoughts, um, to divert them or to navigate them, and make sure that you're showing up in ways that it's not detrimental to your psyche,
Mhm.
right? And you are reframing and
Yes.
showing up in all the best ways possible.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Yes.
that's what we're talking about. So physical and then mental. And we know mind and body, they have a connection,
Mhm. They sure do. They sure
right?
do, without a doubt. Yes. Uh-huh. Mhm.
Okay, cool. So let's go on to the next one. What do we
Yes.
have?
We have emotional resilience. I love talking about feelings and emotions. It's probably my favorite thing. Because two things. One, feelings make life rich. If we could not feel, life would not be nearly as rich as it is. And the second thing is that, and this is like, if I could pick one thing as a therapist that I wish I could get the entire world to understand, it is that you cannot go through life without feeling quote unquote bad feelings, or the feelings that do not feel good to feel. Like, you cannot go through life without feeling them. That's not possible. And you feel them early on. Babies feel. We see this in babies. They feel happy and excited, and you see that in how they emote before they can tell you what they're feeling. They also feel mad when you take something away from them that they want to play with, but they can't tell you. But feelings are a part, we are feeling beings. And so what emotional resilience first and foremost is that it is not pretending that you don't feel a certain way, or it's not denying that you feel a bad feeling. I see that come up a lot, where I think we think that if we can pretend our way out of feeling bad, we just won't feel bad. But when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to emotional resilience, I think the thing that's so important about it is being able to be honest about how we're feeling. Because if we can understand how we're feeling, we can get to know what's going on inside of us, what our triggers are, what our needs are. And
Mm-hmm.
no matter how hard you try, you cannot make a square peg fit in a round hole, even if you really want it to. It won't work. So we have to be really honest with how we feel. And sometimes that means admitting that we're angry, or admitting that we feel jealous, or that we feel hurt by something. And those are hard things to admit. But when
Yeah.
we're able to acknowledge that and know what's going on, and we're aware, then we can go through and understand what we need to work through the emotion. And a lot of times it can be just de-escalating to name and know what's going on inside our minds and inside our bodies, because emotions trigger a feeling in our bodies as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, emotions are everything.
Mhm.
I mean, the minute a kid is born, right? You
Mhm.
got tap them to see
Mhm.
if they're gonna cry or not.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we live and breathe emotions, and I
Yeah.
love the fact that you highlighted like that emotional resilience has to do with allowing yourself to feel actually versus shifting
Mhm.
away from it, right?
Mhm.
um I also think what I would add here is a misconception about emotional resiliency is also how do you manage your emotions, right? In terms of like, oh my God, if you're crying so much, you're not resilient, you're not strong,
Mhm.
right? But that's
Mhm.
not the case,
Mhm. So
right?
true. Yeah.
Um, because I think crying is very powerful. In fact, you're
Oh
feeling
my
all
gosh,
these
yes.
different emotions,
There's
right?
like not a single emotion either that doesn't make us cry. Have you ever been so happy you've cried, or so excited you've cried? Like,
Mhm.
no, and nobody ever says that about smiling. No one's like, we don't criticize smiling. And smiling is also an expression, can be an expression of emotion. It can be an expression of happiness. And we don't say that with it's a double standard that we hold to crying.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Right, because those are uncomfortable emotions, quote unquote, right? Like
Hmm.
we're taught to not feel them. So when
Yes.
we're taught to not feel them, or when we're shunned when
Hmm.
we feel them, why would you want to feel them,
Exactly.
right? I mean, think about it. Have you ever seen a parent that says high five to crying? No. Have you ever seen a parent or anybody that says, "Hey, good getting your anger out, right? No,
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
usually shunned.
Yeah,
When you get
that's so
angry,
true.
you're shunned. No, don't be
Mhm.
angry. When you're crying, why are you crying? Stop crying,
Mhm.
right? People aren't teaching you that it's okay. You're not getting the messages that it's okay to cry.
Mhm.
It's okay to be sad. And
Mhm.
actually, the fact that your sibling or your friend didn't share their chocolate with you would make you sad,
Yes, of course it would. Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Or
Yes.
that you didn't get invited to that birthday party and you thought you were cooler than you actually were.
Yes. Mhm. Yeah, like things
That
feel
probably would be.
things feel sad because they're sad. like
Yeah.
like it's actually like the appropriate response often is sadness. And yet I think that's why people have this way of pretending like they don't feel bad or trying to deny their feeling is actually to your point that we're often taught in childhood that a bad feeling is bad in some way. That
Mhm.
that feeling bad is the wrong thing to do when it's actually just like the natural human response. We might
Mhm.
expect that, like, as an adult, if you don't get the job that you tried to apply for and you interviewed for and you really wanted, we might expect that you would feel disappointed and you would feel sad, and that's okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think emotional resilience, what I would parallel that with is emotional intelligence, right?
Yeah.
So there's different layers of it. Again, this could be a whole
Mhm.
topic on its own, right? Clearly, we're loving talking about emotions.
Mhm.
Um, so when you think about like the ability to actually name your emotion, that is emotional resilience.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah.
I am feeling sad.
Mhm.
My grief is heavy. I'm grieving,
Mhm.
right? I'm disappointed. I'm
Mhm.
hurt, right?
Mhm.
So emotional resilience is about awareness
Yeah.
of your emotions, naming it, and then I would say honoring them versus running away
Mhm.
from it.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Let
Bad.
yourself feel that
Yeah.
emotion.
Mhm. Yes.
If that means you got to crawl up in bed and cry and go to bed, it's okay because tomorrow you're going to get up and you're going to feel better.
Yes. Yes. I will say to people a lot that, like, quote unquote bad feelings are not the enemy. They're not a problem to be solved, but an experience to be understood. And we
Mhm.
gain a lot from understanding them and giving space to them. And actually, I can't remember who it was that said it, but that unexpressed emotions never die. They just are buried alive and come forth in other ways. If we go to bed and early and cry and eat a pint of ice cream and you feel better the next day, you're not burying that emotion alive. You're processing it through, and that is resilience.
Yeah, that also reminds me as I'm listening to the quote, it reminds me of like self-destructive behavior,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
bearing your emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and how that plays out in self-destructive behavior, such as addiction,
Absolutely. Yeah.
eating disorders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cutting, anger. I mean, the list can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Like the anxiety and the depression that we carry in our bodies because our emotions are not expressed.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
And I can definitely say, as a human being who has experienced trauma, who's experienced grief by losing my parents,
Mm-hmm.
like the days or the nights where I miss them dearly and I can't help but to cry and honor my grief. I lie to you not. The next day I wake up, I'm so task oriented. I'm happy. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, Dr. Q, let's get cracking. You got to
Yeah.
talk about grief because you're living and breathing it. And that's because I've worked through that.
Yeah.
And I want to tie that back to the physical and mental piece too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they all are intertwined. I
Mm-hmm.
allow my body to feel,
Yes.
right? It's the
Mm-hmm.
physical act of crying. I
Mm-hmm.
rested.
Mm-hmm.
I may have drank some water or tea, whatever the case is,
Yeah.
right? So it's like I'm pouring into myself,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously is going to make me feel better.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna say about emotional.
Mhm. I love
You
it.
can tell this is probably our favorite type of resilience.
Probably, yes. As therapists, I think that that's pretty fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we checked off emotional, mental, psychological, and physical. So the next one actually is broken into different categories, and I think they're all awesome and they're all again interconnected. So the last category is social resilience. So what does social resilience entail? Well, there's a lot of different things. Um, Yet it has to do with connecting, right? It's your ability to move around in this world socially, right? In different layers. So, what does your social support look like? When we talk about communities, right? That would be a community. Building a community would be a form of social resilience.
Mhm. Yes.
Think about how many times you pick up the phone and you're like, I'm going to call my best friend or your sister in your case, right?
Yeah.
And talk to her because I'm having a rough day.
Yes.
And when someone else pours into you, that's socially connected to you, interpersonally connected to you, it gives you a form of strength.
Mhm.
Majority of the time, right? Other
Mhm.
times, your social support um, obviously can look different. So there's interpersonal relationships, there's family relationships, there's also community relationships
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah.
Yet, when you look at resiliency from a social construct, you're looking at all the ways that the system or this world is designed at micro and macro levels of care.
Mhm.
I mean, classic example would be LinkedIn, right?
Mhm.
I mean, this the LinkedIn family is a huge social resilience. See
Oh
for me,
yeah. Oh yeah. Uh-huh. I think
right?
the LinkedIn family is great. Yeah.
Right. So we're talking about organizations. We're talking about what does your community look like? Are you involved with church, the mosque, the synagogue? Do you attend any clubs, any organizations again? Universities, right? Um, there's so many different levels of social resilience, but the idea behind it is the more social support you have, the stronger your resilience is on
Mhm.
that level.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that there's like, we need to have relationships with one another. That includes space where we intentionally form community and community that's supportive, community that we can be honest with, that can be honest with us, where we can share both the struggles and celebrate the good things together. Because in that, especially in sharing the struggles, that's actually where I think relationships get formed so tightly. And there's something incredibly powerful about being vulnerable, and how that can also bring about resilience in its own way, allowing ourselves to be supported, allowing ourselves to be championed by people. I love
Mhm.
what you said about LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is a place that I think champions people really well, and allowing that is all part of resilience and building that for ourselves, and community is without a doubt, social resilience is so important.
Yeah, and it as as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about bullying in school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about our peer groups.
Mm-hmm.
Think about when we were younger. Well, it doesn't even have to be younger. We can get bullied as adults in the workplace, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about organizational resilience, community work life balance, right? Like if you're in school and you get bullied, you're going to have some relational traumas there,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
You may get up feeling very anxious in going to school. Or if there are challenges or issues with your supervisor at work, right? You're gonna have a lot of different emotions around it. So, which is why it's so important to have um, surrounded. You need to be surrounded by people that are supporting you and can pour into you, because I think that level of social resilience will help you advocate for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a stronger sense of social resilience, right? Surrounded by people that love and care for you, you're gonna be able to find your voice. You're gonna tell yourself, you know what? Forget them. They don't like me, but I got these cool friends right here that love me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which feeds into your resiliency as well. So when we talk about resiliency, we're talking about adaptation and flexibility and getting through hardships, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you get bullied, you're less phased by it
Yeah.
when you have a solid group of friends.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine if you don't. You're going to internalize all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not loved, I'm not wanted, I'm not good looking, whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that we recognize that our resiliency is impacted by so many different layers of things.
Yes.
So many. And you know what? We haven't even talked about developmental challenges. We
Mm-hmm.
haven't even talked about neurodivergence.
Mm-hmm. We have
We
not,
haven't
and there's
talked culture yet.
yeah, there's so many things. I mean, we could talk for hours even on those two topics alone.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many layers of things that contribute to our resilience, right? So
Yes.
when we talk about it as a whole, I guess one of the questions that came up in the shout out show last week, because we also discussed resilience, one of the questions that Preacher Moss asked me to elaborate on was, is resilience a habit or a trait?
Mm.
And can it be built?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, I expanded on it, but I want to get your thoughts on this, Deanna. What do you think? The first part.
I think that we are born resilient. I think, if nothing else, you're born like as evidenced by the fact that like babies, little kids, they're from a physical resilience standpoint, it's a wonder any of us survived childhood. And the bodies of our bodies when we're really young and little are incredibly resilient. I think that we are naturally resilient people. Humans in general are. I don't think we would have survived as many years on this planet as we have. I
All
think
the
that,
catastrophes.
yeah, I know. I think that there are things that make us feel like we aren't resilient, that cut down our confidence and our trust that we can be resilient. But that's where resiliency is also built. I mean, it's a yes and a yes to both questions. Really, I think we are absolutely naturally resilient, 100%. And I think that drives us to want to survive and want to create and achieve and all of that. I think we can connect to resilience as at least a facet of those things. But I think that also in the times where we're really feeling struck down, resiliency can also be built without a doubt.
Yeah, and that was exactly my answer.
Mhm.
Just like you, I firmly believe that we are naturally resilient. And if
Mhm.
we weren't, we would not have made it this far.
Yeah.
I think regardless of what era you were born in, right? There's so many things that have happened through life that I also believe that we were a lot more naturally resilient in the past than we are now.
Mhm.
Why? Because we didn't have all these amenities in the past. We didn't have airplanes to take us overseas. People traveled in ships.
Mhm.
People had camels, okay? Like we didn't have technology, right? Like there's so many different things that the human race was able to overcome. Like even in battle, think about it.
Mhm.
We are very strong, and naturally resilient. And what has happened is that we've there's just so much more trauma happening.
Yeah.
I mean, trauma always existed, no doubt. With life comes trauma, right? Hardship.
Mhm.
Yet I think there's so many other layers of trauma over time that has happened that didn't exist in the past. For example, weapons of mass destruction. That's one piece, right?
Mhm.
But also car accidents when
Mhm.
we didn't have cars, right?
Totally. Totally.
And then the
Mhm.
other thing is the social media, right? Think
Mhm.
about all the things that we're exposed to. Back in the day, you couldn't access those things. You wouldn't know
Mhm.
what was going on. You would just hear about it.
Mhm.
So I do think that some of these layers of evolution, is what I call it, does impact our resilience.
Yeah.
It does make us fragile.
Mhm. Mhm.
We are very fragile and need to be taken care of. We need to pour into ourselves. We are delicate, beautiful souls that need tender love and care.
Yes. Mhm.
So just imagine, like, if we are naturally born resilient, imagine if we learn from a very young age to take care of ourselves in all these areas.
Mhm.
I mean, it would just be a beautiful world where
It sure
everybody
would.
would experience happiness.
It sure would. It would be an incredibly beautiful world. Yeah. Mhm.
So, um, as we kind of wrap around to the end of our episode, we are gonna end a little bit early, guys, because our resilience, we're trying to practice pouring into ourselves.
Yep.
And Deanna and I both have had very long weeks, so we are feeding off each other's energies.
Mhm. Mhm.
So with that, what I would say is, can we build on resilience? Is it a trait? Is it a habit? Um, resilience can grow.
Yes, it can.
Resilience can grow.
Mhm.
And over time, we have to be even more mindful of pouring into ourselves, because our mind, body, our soul also take a hit as we get older.
Mhm.
You know, the way I felt physically in my 20s isn't how I felt in my 30s, and definitely not in my 40 right now.
Mhm.
So you have to pour more into yourself as you go
Yeah.
through the developmental age groups as well.
Yes.
Hmm?
And you have to drink water. Drink
Yeah,
water.
water.
Yeah,
You
it's
can't go wrong
important.
with water. And luckily, I love water. I'm not a soda
Same.
person.
I do too.
Yeah.
I love water. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it's so important. This is what that it's always water in here. When you see this, it's water. I love water. So yeah, drink water.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So with that, Deanna, do you have any last minute things to say? We have probably about 30 seconds. We can wrap up in 45 minutes.
I would
What is
say
one takeaway you want everybody to know about resilience?
I think that the takeaway that I would let people have is that you feeling your emotions all the way through is resilience. Like that
Mhm.
does make you more emotionally resilient. I mean you can inappropriately do things with your emotions, all that kind of stuff, but giving yourself the space to be honest with and understand what you're feeling and allow yourself to feel it is emotional resilience. So,
Absolutely. And I would say that whenever in doubt, if you doubt your resilience, remember you are you have surpassed so many tests of life to be where you're at. There isn't a single soul out here that's not resilient. Each and every one of us is very resilient. So with that, guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of I Choose Us, right? So when you choose yourself, you're choosing your relationships as well. When you work on yourself, you are going to show up better in other relationships too. So take care tonight. Next month, we're not going to be on, but we will loop back in November and December, right? October, November, December.
October,
Yeah.
November, December. Yeah. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone. Good night. Bye bye.